Logan Paul has seemed to recover a lot of his hate as of recent, as around 5 to 6 months ago, he was in the heat of it from the CryptoZoo scandal, his clear envy towards his brother Jake, and of course, how he treated George Janko on Impulsive, which ended up making him part ways and leave the show. And it appears Logan Paul isn't exactly happy with George Janko getting Andrew Tate on his podcast, and we'll shortly see why. So be sure to stick around till the end for the full details. Logan Paul has continuously thrown jabs at George Janko for his podcast and its low views over the past few months, mainly dating back 4 to 5 months ago.
We don't get a chance to communicate directly with you as much as we would like, but damn, we've had a long run, a long and fruitful run.
Yeah.
And I just want to say I appreciate you guys watching for so long and being so great to us.
That's very cool, Mike. That's very nice of you. Yeah, we don't acknowledge him enough. We love you guys. We love you guys. Seriously, without you, this would be nothing. I didn't know we were doing this right now.
I'm sorry.
No, I get it. I love this outlet. I love this outlet, and it exists because people watch. And without people watching, I just have a show like.
But regardless, George Janko has stuck with it over time, and some of his episodes have done extremely well. And he hit the jackpot with this Andrew Tate episode yesterday, which has already hit over 1 million views, and the feedback was amazing. Man, in the years I've watched your content, I've always been so impressed with the way you can navigate any conversation with any person. You're a great speaker. This was a brilliant example of that. Glad to see this show is doing so well. This has to be podcast episode of the year for me. I've learned so much from this video that I can take away from and apply to my life. George and Andrew are having conversations that need to be addressed in today's society. Conversations like this are needed. I remember when Logan Paul mocked George for creating his own podcast. Nothing is better than a good underdog story. Been following since episode 1, so proud of you, George. And like we've already from earlier in the video, Logan Paul really mocked one of his best mates for his podcast when it just started. It shows a man's true colors in a situation like that. Logan Paul is the epitome of a man who needs everything to revolve around him, and if anyone gets in the way, they're out. Make sure you subscribe to the channel and turn on the post notification bell. This way you'll never miss out on any future celebrity videos similar to these. One of the reasons fans love the recent podcast featuring George Janko and Andrew Tate was their religious perspectives and how it affects their lives and how they move forward. As this was one of the main reasons George left Impulsive, because of Logan Paul's disrespect towards his beliefs, and would turn a blind eye and not even hear the guy out.
One that really hurt me is you told me I need a therapist because I believe in Jesus. That one hurt me.
No, I didn't. I said you need a therapist because Jesus isn't quite doing it for you.
What do I need a therapist for then?
Jesus isn't doing it for you. And I
what do I need a therapist for?
I don't believe you're as emotionally mature as you could be.
What do I need a therapist for?
To get you to level up.
In what?
Yourself.
In what category?
Emotional intelligence.
Emotional, me.
Yes.
Do you think that is something a loving human being would say to somebody?
I love you, and I don't think Jesus is evolving you in a way that you could be.
You all know what it means and when it happened. It was stunning to observe because Logan never once acknowledged George's religious beliefs during the entire program. He was so certain of his opinion that it appeared that he would rather win the argument than participate in it. Fans quickly realized this, and it marked the beginning of a series of events that most likely resulted in Logan and Mike firing George because of how different their opinions were from theirs. This is why I love George. I've recently been getting closer to God, and I love this. I feel for George. I try to help my friends get closer with God, and they pretty much just laugh in my face like this. The second-hand embarrassment for Logan is unbearable in this episode. From calling himself a genius while openly being ignorant of how he comes off to just downright being proven to be the least mature of the group is really something. The fact that George stood up for himself and his religion when Logan said those things made me so happy to see people standing up for their belief. God bless you, George. One remarkable thing about Logan is that no matter how many scandals he finds himself in, he always manages to get away with it. The thing that shocked me the most was that Logan was at ease discussing George's faith on a podcast when he wasn't even attempting to argue. Rather, he was just looking for a fight. When he was on Impulsive, what did he say to him off camera? For those that haven't seen the George Janko and Andrew Tate podcast, only part 1 by the way, as the second episode drops on the 12th December, which will also do massive numbers. But here's a sneak peek.
And you're right. You have to be careful who you're around because you are the sum of the 5 people you spend the most time with.
Yeah, you are who you hang out with. Dude, there's a reason why God says sheep.
Yep.
We're sheep.
Yep.
We're all sheep.
You can see why the episode performed how it did, as it's two individuals who are open-minded and have a willingness to listen to one another. Whereas when George Janko was on Impulsive and would try and get his views across, he would always get shunned and shut down. Before we go any further into the video, what are your guys' thoughts on this entire situation? Is Logan being salty for taking digs at George in his podcast over the past few months, especially now the fact he got his arch nemesis Andrew Tate on? Or does Logan have every right to be annoyed? Comment down below. Even though there aren't as many listeners to George Janko's podcast as there are to Impulsive, it made sense for George to launch his own show. Since if you listen to him on the Impulsive show, you most likely heard him stray from the subject at hand and discuss something more important. When you watch George on his own podcast, the difference is evident. Having complete control over what he says and does on his podcast has boosted his enthusiasm, knowledge, and involvement. This indicates that he didn't give Impulsive his all when his time on the show was coming to an end. George has spoken out about Logan since leaving Impulsive, and it's evident he's still hurt by the entire situation, but knew it had to be done eventually, as it just simply wasn't working.
Have you talked about the Impulsive at all and just being done with it?
It's weird, man, because like I was making jokes about it, like I was talking about like how I was treated, like when it comes to like what I joked about on the show, and then we had a disagreement. I walked away, and how I was raised is like if you really have a disagreement, I walk around with my life, so I joke about shit, but I don't make shit real. And he took it to a level where it was like real. I'm at a point right now where I want distance from both of them. I don't want anything to do with it, and I just move on. What f***s me up, bro, is the love is still there for me.
It's a shame, as they have known each other since the Vine days and blew up on the internet around the same time. So for them to go this far in their careers to now not even talk to one another is pretty upsetting, and hopefully in due time, they can sort their differences out. It didn't take long for everyone on Impulsive to stop being cool with George having his own podcast. Following the premiere of his first episode, George expressed his desire to continue hosting Impulsive and to utilize his own show to discuss topics that he was unable to discuss on Logan and Mike's podcast, which makes it seem a little strange that he was unable to express his opinions on the Impulsive show in the first place. He has mentioned how wonderful his current seat is and how wonderful it is to be able to see and hear the guest. Additionally, he has commented on how pleasant it is to not have to worry about running out of time or interruptions when telling a lengthy story. Perhaps most significantly, though, is that he has cracked jokes about how wonderful it will be to be able to freely discuss God with guests in the future. It'll be interesting to see the second episode with Andrew Tate and what they discuss in that, as if it's anything like the first, it'll be another great watch. Anyway, this concludes today's episode. Be sure to subscribe to LoafTube for future celebrity videos, and turn on that post notification bell so you don't miss out on any future uploads. Until then, see you in the next one.